You guys are in for a treat because today I'm sitting down with my boy Justin Allen, husband, father, coach, author, ex professional basketball player, and so much more. Today he's going to be sharing with us his stories on how he continues to fight adversity and build himself up when he's mostly at his lowest point. Let's check it out. I'm the mortgage man, May's the mortgage man. Yeah, I'm the mortgage man, May's the mortgage man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was a journey for sure. So I grew up in a town of 800 people. It was a farming village in the middle of nowhere, really, in northern Illinois. And my entire dream, my whole life, was to play basketball. Like I wanted to play college basketball. I wanted to play professional basketball. Like grew up in the Jordan era of Illinois, so like that's what you did. Grew up watching Larry Bird, who was my idol at the time, and that's just what I wanted to do. But we'd never had a Division I athlete. Malta ever. So when I would tell people I wanted to play Division I basketball and even pro basketball, they pretty much laughed. Like, yeah, right. Like you're gonna go to Kish. Like they would just throw.
And I never heard of Malta. I'm from Illinois.
Most people haven't. We had 78 kids in our high school. Like it was. I believe it was the smallest public school in the state of Illinois at the time.
Wow.
So the odds of me moving forward and playing were pretty low, but it was just what I loved. And I got lucky that I was like 6'8", and I could shoot the ball because I put in a lot of time. But I didn't get recruited. I never played club basketball, never had any offers. And my mom, of all people, read a book on how to get recruited.
Yeah.
And she read this book, and then she came to me and was like, "I'm going to help you get a scholarship." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, mom." Like, what do you know? You're 5'2" Irish lady.
Right.
You've never played ball in your life. Or she claims that she was a rover. Okay. I don't even know what that is. That's her basketball knowledge. And but she ended up reading this book, and we created a highlight, we created a full game, we created a resume, and we sent it out to like 20 schools. She pretty much was like, "Where do you want to send this to?" And I was like, I picked 20 schools that like were big, like bold, right?
Yeah.
I was like Duke, Illinois, Oklahoma, ASU. Like I just started naming all the big schools, and like my buddies were like, "Yeah, right." Like send it to like Northern maybe or whatever. And so we sent it, and Arizona State was actually the first school to call. And I remember that was my sister's dream school. So as soon as they called me, she's like, "You have to go there, right?" And I took my recruiting trip out to Arizona State, and I just fell in love. Like obviously the weather, the school, everything. And coming from a small town, my eyes were like that big. And ended up signing at Arizona State, came out to Arizona State to play basketball. My freshman year was pretty good up and down.
Right.
Academically, I had like a 2 point something because I was going to go to the league, right? Like,
exactly.
I made this far now, I want to go to the league. And so it was girls and ball, and that's all I cared about. So my grades weren't very good, but as a freshman, I played pretty big minutes, a little bit up and down, but I had some pretty big games. And then going into my sophomore year, I was going to be sixth man probably. Like everything was looking right. I was like leading into like, this is the progression I need to be going. And I started feeling like a pain in my stomach. They thought I had a pulled ab muscle. I started losing weight. I didn't feel very good. So then the doctor started checking me for like valley fever, for like all these like, do you have hepatitis because you have tattoos? Like they started checking me for everything, and they could not figure out what was wrong with me. So I was getting ice and stem on my pulled ab muscle, and I just kept playing. I kept practicing, and I just still didn't feel good. And coach was like, "What's wrong with you? Have you been out partying? Like, why are you not playing as well?" And I was like, "No, man, I'm working. I don't feel good." So then I went to practice in the morning. It was preseason. I bent down to tie my shoe, and I pretty much passed out. And I was out, and they came over, and they checked on me, and they rushed me to the hospital. They did a CAT scan, and what they thought was a pulled ab muscle was a softball-sized tumor that was sitting in my stomach. So come to find out, I had Hodgkin's lymphoma. I had the softball-sized tumor in my stomach. I had a bunch in my hips and groin. Missed the entire year. But that moment right there was one of those kind of rebuilds, where I was like, maybe I won't play pro. Like maybe, and then as I got older, the realization of to play in the NBA, you're in the 1%, less than the 1%. Yeah. And in my 18-year-old mind, it was a done deal, right? Yeah. So it was almost like the cancer was like, "Hey, wake up! Like you got to focus on school. Like you can't waste this opportunity because what if you don't go to the league and you flunk out? It happens a lot, right?" So from that moment, I did 6 months of chemo, 8 weeks of radiation. I had gotten down from like 230 to 160 pounds at one point. Like I had lost a ton of weight. But when I got sick, I started focusing on my grades because I was competitive, right? I couldn't compete on the court anymore. So I think I just used that competition in the classroom. I stayed in school, kept a full credit hour. I would go to chemo and then I would go to class. Like it was pretty nuts. But I ended up finishing out my ASU career. It was a little bit like this. Like I had some good moments, some low moments. I didn't feel very good a lot of the time. It took me a while to kind of feel normal again. But I ended up graduating with 3.5, which was like from a 2.0, it was like not going to happen.
Huge.
I ended up, being all Pac-10. It wasn't Pac-12 yet. All Pac-10 academic 3 times, which again wasn't going to happen before because it just wasn't.
Right.
I wasn't even focused on it. So I finished my career at ASU, and I'm done. My body hurts. Like I just don't want to play anymore. Like I kind of started losing. I don't have the passion for it, but I think I was just like lack of confidence. During that entire time, I was struggling with post-traumatic depression, but I didn't tell anybody.
Right.
Because when I was in college, I was winning the Gene Autry Courage Award. I won the Golden Hearts Award for Sparky. I won the Jimmy V Courage Award. So I'm winning all these awards for like courageous battle.
Right.
But internally, I'm battling depression. So I'm like, well, I can't tell anybody because I'm an imposter, right?
Right.
If I tell people that I'm struggling and I'm depressed, well, then they're gonna like, oh, you're not courageous.
Right.
And then I started feeling an imposter. Like everyone thinks I'm this courageous person. I was going around to schools and speaking about courage and how to overcome. And legit at night, I'd be crying half the time. It's like I was like broken, and I didn't know why. I'm like, well, post-traumatic. There's more than just. Sometimes you can't control it. You need help, and I never got help.
Right.
So battled that, and so when I got done playing, I'm like, screw basketball, done. Yeah, for sure. One is like I was obsessed. Like I was just obsessed with the game. Like I use the word passion a lot. It was my blogs chase my passion. Like you hear me talk about a lot on my stuff, and it was almost beyond passion. Like I was obsessed with the game. Like I was a basketball junkie, a gym junkie. I was in the gym nonstop. So one, like I just worked extremely hard because I knew that I had to be 5 times as good as someone else to get noticed. Because I didn't play club ball, I wasn't playing in the city, like no one knew who I was wasn't playing on a big name team, we were playing smaller competition, so like, I knew I had to be 5x better than everybody else. So honestly, like my work ethic at that time was I was in the gym nonstop all the time. So that was a big piece of it, was just that piece of like I was obsessed. And something I've learned, like if you want to break any type of stigmatism of like, if you can do something, like if you want something, you almost have to get obsessed with it to a point.
And people, I hear so many times, like people say, I'm in the gym, but like literally, what was you being in the gym? Like how many hours in a day? Like
it was nuts. Like it was, when I was like in junior high and stuff, like my mom worked at the hospital, and the hospital was right next to the YMCA.
Okay.
I would, in the summers, I'd go to work with her like at 6:30 in the morning, and I'd leave with her like at 4:30 p.m. and I'd be at the YMCA the entire time.
Wow.
Like when I got older, same thing. Like she taught classes from like 6 o'clock to like 10 p.m. I was at the YMCA for 4 straight hours just working on my game, which I'd probably already been working on my game in the driveway earlier than that. And then as I got older, same thing. Like obviously as I got a little bit older, like girlfriends would come in, and I got had other things, but like the game was what took precedent over everything. Yeah. So I was just extremely, extremely obsessed. But I think also with that, like I had a lot of self-belief. Like I just knew it. I had this weird feeling that I knew that, it sounds bad because I love where I grew up. I love my hometown. I love the people there. Like still my best friends are from there. Like I just had my wedding, and half the people at my wedding that I invited were from my hometown still. And that was like, I left there in 99. Yeah. But like I just had this crazy self-belief that I was meant not to be there. Yeah. Like I was meant to like leave and go big and go to the league or go to college. Like I just knew it and I believed it, and I just like I lived that way. Yeah. Like it's gonna happen. Like it's, and one of my favorite people to follow, I don't know if you ever follow him on YouTube or Instagram, but like Will Smith. Yeah. I'm obsessed with Will Smith. Like I love his acting, but I'm obsessed with like his mindset and the way he lives his life. But he had a moment where he was like, you can't be realistic, because as soon as you're realistic, you put a ceiling on it. Because what is realistic? Right. And when he says it, it's exactly what he says. Like, what is realistic? Like, was it realistic to believe that you could flip a light switch on and light can come on? At one point, that never happened. Right. Was it realistic that you could put metal together and fly it over the ocean? Like, it's unrealistic. It'll never happen. Right. So, like, for me, it was unrealistic that I was ever going to make it. But in my mind, it wasn't. You know, so I feel like it was that obsession and that self-belief that I was just gonna do it.
Dude, one thing I love that you say, a lot of people think when you say build yourself, they think it's all like a inside your head game. No, you gotta work 10 times harder to actually like build than just, once you decide like, this is what I want to do, or this is my passion, or I'm not meant to be in this space. I feel like I need to be somewhere else. That's the mental building and building that confidence. But then it's like okay, what are you doing?
With the actions.
Exactly.
My favorite thing, so I do a lot of life coaching now, right? And I have athletes, I have entrepreneurs, I have executives, like you name it, I have it. And my favorite question is always like, what are you gonna do about it? Like at the end of the day, like, what are you gonna do about it? Now you gotta get your mind right, you gotta get your emotions right. At the end of the day, like, what are you gonna do about it? Because that's what's actually gonna create something. Like your thoughts and your emotions are great, but they're not gonna create anything if actions don't happen. And there's a monk named Danny Pani. I don't know if you ever checked him out. You'd love him, man. Danny Pani's cash, YouTube, like Instagram, everything. And he has a thing where he talks about like our thoughts create our emotions create our actions. And it always flows that way. If you think something, you feel a certain way. If you feel that, you create more of those thoughts. And then those are gonna create action. So if you're thinking negative or like, I can't do this, well, what emotions do you get? Lack of confidence, like self-doubt, whatever. And then what actions happen from that? Usually none. Exactly. Or like negative, right? But if you go to like extreme self-belief, like obsession or passion about something, and you think that, it creates emotions of like passion and energy and hard work and excitement. And what type of actions does that create? It's going to create positive, it's just going to create something that's going to create movement. Totally. Now there's all these other levels of like planning and being priorities and like having a plan and having clarity on how you execute. But it really comes down to like thinking the right thing, feeling the right thing, and then taking action. That's good. I mean, that's good questions. Because right off the bat, when that happens, it's like you're taking a blow. You know, like you're getting hit in the face and knocked down, and it's like, whoa, like what is this? And whenever you hear like cancer word, and there's all these other things that come up, your mind usually goes to like all these like other people you know that had that, or this situation, or like my sister's best friend passed away when I was in high school. Well, I actually, crazy enough, I believe that she's my spirit guide. Still to this day, I believe. But like that's right where my mind went to, like her battle, and it was painful to watch, and it was excruciating. And she was the most craziest person I've ever met, but she battled, so my mind went straight there, which was full of like negative feelings and emotions. So there was a ton of fear. And as I'm going through it, like, I lost like 70 pounds. So then I remember when I first came back, like I could barely, I sucked. Like I was terrible when I first came back, because like I hadn't played in a year, plus I had poison in my body for a year, plus the cancer that was eating me up. So there was a lot of fear and anger and pain and all that. I think how I overcame it was like twofold. I think there's an internal piece of what I did and an external piece of who I had around me. Right? So like when I rebuilt myself, I definitely had a ton of support. And not all of them I had support. Like my mom's story helped me get recruited because she believed in me just as much as I did. But in this one too, like I had the best support system. Like that's why I stayed here. Like my mom originally wanted me to go back to Illinois to have my cancer treatments. And she came out here and she walked into the hospital room, and when she walked in, all my teammates were just sitting there. And they just stayed there like all evening, and she was like, what is this? Like, I can't take them away from this. She felt the energy. My mom actually
just got
quit. It was nuts, man. And then my mom pretty much quit her job and just moved out here for a year and took care of me. And then she had quit her job because the hospital loved her. They let her have a year off, pretty much. And then my coach, all my coach's wife, like the community at ASU, the athletic department, like everyone just really rallied around me and was like, hey, we got you. You know, so it almost felt like I got knocked down, but I was falling on a blanket at least, or like a bunch of pillows, because I had these people like, we got you, like anything you need, we got your help. And so having that support was massive. So I think anytime you're rebuilding yourself, realizing you don't have to do it alone, like you can find that support system, that team, those people that'll lift you up, that will challenge you, that'll push you, that will help you up when you fall down, that will build you up when you need it. That was massive for me. So that was a big one. And then the other two, or the other side, the internal side was, again, it comes back to my obsession of basketball. I was like I just wanted to play again. And I remember when it happened, I told my doctors, like, I'm gonna play next year. They're like, well, slow down, like let's figure out what's happening. Like, I'm like, no, I'm gonna play next year. Like, we don't know what you're gonna have to go through. And the whole time they're like, well, you might not play next year, just be ready for it. I'm like, I'm playing next year. And I remember that, I got done with my last radiation treatment. And I was on the court, like shooting around, playing around. I went to Australia a month later with my team, and I competed. I was like 13 a game. My coaches were like, what the hell? Because I was just so like energy. It was energy. It was like just a loving, passionate, motivated, obsessive.
What got you there?
It was, I pulled back from that. And I pretty much said, I need this again, right? I need that obsessive, because my freshman year, I almost lost some of that obsession, because it was like, I was at a big school, like girls ball, I've kind of made it a little bit, ego got in a little bit. like I was definitely an egomaniac when I came in.
Right.
You know, and because you're at ASU, you're to play ball, like, and that knocked me down a peg, which was good. And I stayed.
Right.
And the ego definitely shifted quite a bit because of that. But yeah, it was the support I had, and I think that again it was that obsession and passion.
That's huge, dude. So after school, right?
Yeah.
After where did the journey take you there?
Yeah. So it was pretty. So again, it was like talking about rebuild. I had a quick one because I decided I was going to quit, and I went and taught U.S. government at high school. And they're like, I remember they interviewed me. They're like, "What do you know about U.S. government?" I'm like, "I voted." You know, like I took it in high school. They're like, "All right," because they just wanted me to coach, right?
Right.
So I was a head basketball coach at Florence High School. I was like 23 years old. And I was teaching U.S. government to seniors that were 18 years old. Like I was 5 years older than them. And I enjoyed it. I love coaching. That's when I knew I loved coaching.
Right.
And I coached a club team that summer. It was called the oh my gosh, it wasn't Premier. It was we forgot the name of it. We had a squad. We had
Stars.
No, we had Garrett Lever. We had Ty Abbott.
I remember
we had a squad.
I mentioned when you were with Premier.
Yeah, so it was even before Premier. Okay. So I did it for that year, and I was like, I love this, right? But that next summer, I was just kind of sitting around. I got big. I was like 270. Like I chilled for the year. I was eating. I had kids on my team. I'd make them look at me burritos for practice. Like I'd be eating burritos before practice. And my old teammate Jason Braxton was like, "Hey, I'm going to this Vegas pro-am.
Okay.
There's gonna be all these all these pro scouts there. There's gonna be these former college players trying to play pro. There's gonna be former NBA players here. There's a Nigerian national team, and like the second Chinese national team was gonna be there. Like we need a four-man. Like our four-man is done. Right. Would you be interested?" And I was like, "Bro, I haven't played like in a year." And he was like, "Just come shoot on the gun with me for like a week before. Like start running. You'll be fine."
Yeah.
So I was like, "Free trip to Vegas. I'll go." Right. So I go with him to Vegas. First game, I dropped like 24. And the next game was like the Nigerian national team. I had like 27. And then like I ended up averaging like 20-some a game. I shot 58, 60% from the NBA three-point line. And all of a sudden I had all these not NBA scouts, I had all these scouts. Right. And I had all these agents, and I had like all these offers. And I was like, all right, I'm going to go play again. And then that started my journey where I went to Australia and played. I went to Japan for 2 years and played. I was in Argentina. I was in Venezuela. I was in Israel. I was in Mexico, South Korea. Yeah, so I traveled the world for like 6 years playing ball. And I battled. Like it was really hard for me. I took sales jobs that I didn't like. I coached because I loved it. So that was where I was finding my passion, but the money wasn't great, right? So I had to do other stuff. Right. So again, my depression that I never dealt with just kept getting worse because I never dealt with the post-traumatic. And then I got done again, and it was still kind of hiding in there a little bit. Because even overseas, I still had this, like I should be in the league still. Like I couldn't make the league if I would have got sick. Like, this guy played in the league, I just worked him, and I had this whole thing. Like so, I still had this like weird thing that I was fighting. I never dealt with it. And then I got done, and then I was still wanting to be playing. Right. And then I was trying to transition into real life after being an athlete. And it's like I feel like I'm 37. Yeah. I feel like I've lived like 50 lives. It's been crazy. It's been a journey, and this is what's funny because I've had some really high moments. Like anyone that looks at me from the outside is like seeing like a success, right? Me internally has been like failure after failure, knockdown, and not being good enough, and it really all started with because this has been my passion forever, right? And then there was a moment where I was like, I'm never going to do anything basketball ever again. I need to get rid of it because it's causing me too much pain. Right. And I tried to go away from it for a while, and that didn't help. Like I started doing sales, I did technology sales, and I did like business development for some, for consultative sales, and it all was leading again to just more depression and being frustrated and feeling like I wasn't living on purpose. Like I felt very disconnected from like who I knew I was to what I was doing, and it just wasn't right. And then I was like, well, I played ball and I learned all these lessons, but I wasn't using any of them in my post-athletic life. Right. Like, all these things I learned, but no one ever taught me like that. Like, I mean, it's just implied. You learn this stuff. You learn life lessons through sports. Right. It's implied, but like there needs to be like a process of actually teaching it, and then like making connections of how you do it in other areas to actually make it useful post career. So it really got sparked when my depression got really bad, and I was having panic attacks. I was high anxiety. I was depressive, and I got suicidal. And man, when you're dealing with depression, like sometimes it's just not you even. Right. Like it wasn't me. I didn't even know who that person was. But I tried killing myself, And it really, when I finally decided I was done and I was going to kill myself, it came from my fiance at the time, who's now my wife, so we ended up reconnecting. She left me, and she was like, I love you more than anything in this world, but I can't go to work every day and be thinking about, if I come home, will you be dead? And it's like, as I think about it, as I get, like now, when I'm in a better place, I'm like, I can't believe she even did that for a year.
Right.
I can't even imagine that feeling, and it just like makes me emotional as I think about it, that she had to do that, and I put her through that, and so she was like, I can't anymore. Like I know who you are, like I want the best for you, but I just can't.
Right.
You know,
right.
so she left, and then legit like 3 weeks later, I found out I had cancer for the second time, and I had a big lump in my throat, and I actually talked her into getting lunch with me. She's the one that spotted it, and she called my mom because she knew I wouldn't do anything about it. And my mom snowbirds, and my mom was in town. She's like, when you see Justin, will you look at his neck? She spotted it, found it. We ended up getting the doctor, ended up having surgery, ended up being thyroid cancer. So I was going through thyroid cancer, which that causes depression on top of everything as well. And then with her leaving me, that's when I was like, you know what, it's just time. I'm not living on purpose. I'm not who I want to be. I didn't live the success I wanted. I let people down. My whole town was expecting me to do all these things. I didn't do it. And I just tried ending it. And then when I actually failed at that, and I remember when I failed at it, I was like, you're such a fucking loser. You can't even kill yourself.
That's crazy.
That's a effed up thought to have.
Yeah.
Like when you're mad at yourself because you messed up and killing yourself, and you think you're a failure. So anyway, so I had an epiphany like the next day when I woke up that I have to do something different. I have to change. I can't do what I'm doing now. Otherwise, I'm gonna die. So I made this plan, and I jumped in my car and I drove around the U.S. for 3 months. And yeah, it was nuts, man. I barely had any money at the time with cancer, and then I lost my job because of the cancer, all this stuff. And I just drove, and the whole intention was to meet cool people and just learn and blog about them and share their stories. And then I had like this mark off list of all these, like a bucket list of all these things I wanted to do. And I drove through New Mexico, through Texas, Louisiana, Tennessee, like all the way across the East Coast, all the way up, all the way back around. And I went skydiving in Colorado, went surfing with like a very spiritual person in South Carolina. I ran a wedding in St. Louis. I did a midnight walk through the park in New York City and Manhattan. Like I hung out in Austin for a week. It was just like nonstop, like crazy experiences, right? And I met some of the most amazing people I've ever met. And I just kept getting validation of like it was divine appointments. God was putting people in my path.
Right.
And the most powerful one was I was in the sticks of North Carolina, and I wanted to go west and north, and everyone kept saying you should go to Asheville. Well, Asheville is back. Maybe I wanted to go east and north. Asheville is back west,
right,
towards Tennessee, where I just came from. But like I think it was 3 or 4 people in a row said you need to go to Asheville. Finally, like someone's telling me to go to Asheville.
Yeah.
So I drive to Asheville, I park, I sleep in my car because that's where I slept in my car. I would wake up, take a shower at LA Fitness the next morning, work out. So I'd work out every day, get in my car and go take off. It was nuts. I think I had a hotel 2 nights for 3 months. And I drove to Asheville. There's nothing really in Asheville. There's breweries, but I wasn't in the mode to go drinking, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm gonna go like hiking or something. I'm in the Appalachian Mountains. So I start cruising up to the Appalachian Mountains, or like this hiking trail that I found. I'm in the sticks, like a smaller town than Malta.
Yeah.
And I see a hitchhiker. Like I've never picked up a hitchhiker in my entire life. I got this crazy feeling I got to pick this guy up. So I pull up, ask this guy wants to ride. He's like, yeah, he gets in. I'm like, how far are you going? It was only like 2 miles. And I was like, man, it still would have been a long walk, 2 miles. Like, yeah, he goes, I just found out I have thyroid cancer. So I would have retired. I was like, what? Like, no. Like, right? Like, there's no way that happens. And I remember that moment, I started telling him all about what I went through, all the things that happened, what it felt like. And he got in my car. He's like, I just want to thank you for that, because all I know is the doctors what they're telling me. Like, no one else I know has it. I don't really know where else to get this information.
Right.
And he was like, that was just really, I have hope, pretty much. And it was that moment, like, I have a purpose. Like, all the things I've been through are for me to help, and for me to teach, and for me to coach. And so then that really was a big shift in my trip. Like, I had this awakening. I found A Course in Miracles on that trip, which is Marianne Williamson does a lot of teaching on that. So I saw her live in New York. And it's all about love over fear. So I started studying that. So I found my spirituality back, because before that I went atheist for a while. So I took that trip, and when I came home, it was like, game on. Like, I was legit, like, game on. I came home, told I called my fiance, I got reconnected. We didn't talk for 3 months.
Yeah.
We got reconnected like 2 days before I came home. We met for dinner. She saw me, started crying. And it was like, I'm so in love with you. You're the old person I knew. So we started dating that day again, and then we got married a few months ago. But it was like on that day, I remember I came in, I'm like, I'm going to do this. It's done, it's happening. And it's been, since I got back, it's just been a grind mode of building and like turning myself into an entrepreneur, turning myself into a life coach. So I got certified as a life coach. I started doing life coaching. And then I was like, athletes need this. Like everything I'm teaching executives, athletes need. And that's who I am. So I just tied it into that, and that's kind of what I've been building my business on.
Dude, that's huge, man. I think, like I said, you've been a tremendous example to me, dude. I remember when you went on that journey, and I was like, man, this is, it's crazy. Yeah, I was like, what is this dude? I've always wondered, like, what is this dude up to? Like, this man, like,
People thought it was crazy, for sure.
I would say he's definitely tripping, but looking back on that, man, I think it's super interesting how your lowest point turned into
for sure
that you got to build yourself
every
back
time.
up.
Every time. Like it's every time I get a low point, I know, like I now know there's something coming.
Right.
Yeah, I just have to make sure I put myself in that right mindset, that right emotion, and the action like we talked about.
Yeah.
Like if I stay in the wrong mindset and emotion, that action will happen. But it just happens too many times. Like every low point I have, it's like it's a catapult, something's coming from it. So I just have to be ready for it. And you have to know that like it's like this, life's like that.
Yeah.
You're not gonna be skyrocketing.
Right.
And sometimes you're low, you're all the way up here, your low's only here, but still lower than you were, right? So you don't always have to hit rock bottom.
Right.
Like I legit hit rock bottom, like I was done. But sometimes you're killing it, and then all of a sudden it's a dip. And then that dip can like either keep sending you down, or you can realize that dip's trying to teach you something.
Right.
There's something you need to do differently.
Right.
There's a change that you need to make, a way you need to challenge yourself, like something has to shift. And that's the way I look at it. Anytime I'm like, I fail at something or I struggle with something, it's a chance for me to figure out like, what do I need to change? And every time I make a change, then something else happens.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man. No, dude, man, thank you for sharing, man. That's, I know the people that I deal with can benefit from your story. I know that just gave me more excitement to go out and do more and build myself, man. So I really appreciate you, brother.
I appreciate you, man. Love you, buddy.
Oh, I love you too, man. And, if you wanna buy a house, first thing you need to do, hit up Maze the Mortgage Man, because you know I got you. We will talk about your goals, then develop a plan, so pretty soon you